morning. She is flourishing, and it has been 1 year, y'all. It has been a year since I have been locked. It's actually been a little over a year because it's been, I think, a year and a month so far. I did take shots. I'm going to insert them on the screen here so you all can see where my hair was at exactly 1 year when I got locked. If you're new here, my name is Princilla. I just got my hair locked a year ago. I made the huge decision of locking my natural hair. I started with the loose natural. My hair was not permed because these days you can actually lock permed hair or relaxed hair, but mine was a loose natural. And here's a shot of how that looked when I had a loose natural. And this is where we are now, baby. This is where we are. We're not here to play, okay? We're not here to play games. But let's get into today's video. Since it's been a year, I decided to share some of the things that have become apparent ever since I got locked. Before we jump into it, I love it. It was honestly the best decision I could have made for myself. The first thing that became apparent to me is that finding a good sister-lock consultant is very important for your journey. And I cannot stress this enough. If you've been on my channel, or if you haven't, go ahead and binge watch all my videos if you missed anything. But in the beginning, I had a good loctician to install my locks, but when it came to the retie or the maintenance aspect, because I lived in a different country, I had to find somebody else, and that was a struggle. And finding the right one was the one thing that stood between me getting the best service and the best care for my locks and me not getting that, and it potentially messing up the whole process or the whole journey. Luckily for me, once I visited the bad spot once, I found a good spot, and that's where I've been going ever since. So it's been great so far. As you can see, my hair is thriving. The locks are locking. They're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So we're grateful for that. But it's very, very important. They don't have to be the same person though. The person that installs your lock does not necessarily have to be the same person that reties or maintains it for you. But it is very important that you find the right person. It can make or break your lock journey. The second thing that I do want to talk about is the cost for retie and maintenance. They can get a little pricey depending on where you live. I live in Washington State, and everything here is very expensive. So I pay $250 for my retie. However, every 6 weeks, I go every 6 weeks. And she's one of those consultants that actually love doing people's hair and loves hair care. So even though I paid $250 for each retie, I know that if she needed to combine a lock because one was looking weaker or brittle, she would do it. So any little maintenance and fix that I need in my hair, as she reties my hair, she fixes them. Depending on which part of the world you're in, it's going to be cheaper. I know on the East Coast, because there's an influx of so many consultants over there, it's a little bit cheaper. And also sometimes if the person does it out of their home, then it's a little cheaper. But personally, I don't like going to people's houses to get my hair done. I feel like it's a safety issue, maybe because of the work that I do. I don't also want anybody coming to my home to do my hair, because these days you can't trust anybody. This particular consultant actually has a salon that she runs. So she has a place, a business spot that she runs. So I am willing to pay premium just for those little things. However, if you do want to save and pay a little bit less or get a cheaper service, you might end up in somebody's basement or somebody's kitchen somewhere. But for me, when I do my cost analysis between having the loose natural hair and then getting my hair locked, I feel like it's a good trade-off, because I only have to pay $250 every 6 weeks to get my hair maintained. That's the only expense that I have for my hair. I don't use products except for water, and my sister-lock consultant does provide me with a little mix of concoction to spray in my hair. But aside from that, all I add is water. I don't even oil my scalp because I do have dandruff, and I try to minimize the products that I put on my scalp. So ever since I got locked, I have not purchased any hair product for my lock at all. People are paying $1,000 on braids these days, okay? And salon services is not cheap. Labor when it comes to salon services, it's not cheap at all. So it's either you're doing it on your own and spending more time on your hair, or you're paying somebody else to do it. Either way, you're going to spend money, but I am comfortable spending $250. Depending on where you are, it can be less, every 6 weeks to get my hair locked. Especially if that's the only expense I have to do on my hair. I don't wear wigs, I don't wear braids, I don't do anything. It's just me, my lock, and me, okay? Me, my lock, and I. The next thing that I do want to talk about is the cost for installing your Sisterlocks. It is expensive because when it comes to Sisterlock installation, the technique itself, although it is unique, it is not like a difficult technique. I have been locked for a year and I figured it out like a month or two in. So the process necessarily is not complicated, but it's the time required, y'all. It takes so much time to install. It took me 4 people installing my hair and it took 15 hours. 4 people. If I went to one person to install my hair, it probably would have taken 30 hours, or if not 40 hours, depending on how fast they are. So when you're paying such a high amount for your Sisterlock installation, you're not necessarily paying for the interlocking thing itself, but you're paying for the labor involved in getting it done. And sometimes it takes 20 hours over a 2-day period. Sometimes it takes 40 hours over a 4-day period, depending on how your hair, how dense or how thick your hair is, how small you want your locks. So that's what you're paying for. You're paying for the labor. And I know people pay about $1,000 to $2,000 just to get the install done. And I know somebody will definitely leave a comment and say $2,000 is way too expensive for an install. But what you're paying for is not the lock per se, y'all. And there are several factors that goes in determining what the cost is. The length of your hair, how dense or how thick your hair is, how small you want the locks. So the more intense the situation for you is, the higher you might pay. So it might be more than $2,000. I did get mine done in Ghana and Africa, West Africa. So it's way cheaper because the cost of living there is cheaper, and that's where I'm from. So I did this when I visited, and then the maintenance and everything has been done by my consultant in the US. But it is expensive, so it is a huge investment. But if it ends up working out like the way mine did, it's worth it. I cannot tell you, I can't stress this enough how much I have enjoyed having my hair locked. The peace of mind of knowing that I can just get up and go is worth the money. The other thing is the duration of retying my hair. My locks are very tiny and I'm not sure what the number is right now, but I started with about almost 600 locks, y'all. 600 individual locks. At this point, I've had to combine some of them because some of them unraveled because they were too tiny or they could not withstand the test of time. But I had almost 600 locks. Even if it's just 500 locks, that's a lot of locks that you have to retie. I'm just grateful that my locks or my hair does not grow as fast as others. So I do, these are the moments that I appreciate the fact that my hair does not grow fast at all. Because imagine having this amount of new growth every 6 weeks or whatever. That's just crazy. Okay, we can't be dealing with that. And then what that would mean is that I would then have to have my reties sooner than later. So instead of 6 weeks, I'll probably be doing 5 or 4 weeks, and I can't do that. But the duration of the retie sometimes, depending on who's doing it, it takes between 3, 4, 5 hours. And that's the biggest hurdle for me. I don't mind paying for the service, but I wish it could be faster. And unfortunately, when you go for services at salons, this is not to bash any salon or any service provider. I feel like sometimes there's a lack of sense of urgency, and sometimes we just want to get our hair done and get out and just go. And sometimes it's that sense of urgency is always not there. And that has been the biggest issue and the biggest downside if it comes to me having locks in my hair, is the duration it takes me to get my retie. I don't enjoy the fact that I have to spend 4 to 5 hours at one spot just to get it done when it possibly can be quicker. The size of your locks matter, and do not focus on only the aesthetic of it. And this ties into the duration of the retie. My locks are very tiny, right? And it's pretty, it's beautiful, the hair is full, it looks like I have on like mini twist or whatever. However, because they are tiny, that's part of the reason why my reties take so long. So if you really do not want to spend so much time for your retie, you have to consider the size. Just because it's pretty looking tiny doesn't necessarily mean that it's good for your hair texture or it's good for your hair in general, and that the retie process will impact the retie process essentially. So that's the one thing also that has become apparent. The other thing also is that it is very low maintenance, and I've been saying this like 1,000 times, and I will shout this on the top of the on top of my roof, on any mountain that I get. It's minimal maintenance for your hair. I barely have to touch my locks. Sometimes I just get up, put a hair tie on it, and I'm good to go. Like, I don't have to do anything to it, but give it a little water to breathe and just to wake it up. So it's such a good investment to make. The maintenance is so minimal, especially because I came from a loose natural hair where I have to wash my hair at least once a week, detangle, blow out if I had to, do a twist out or style it. It was just a whole process. And as much as I do love my loose natural hair, I loved my natural hair. I preferred my loose natural hair over relaxed hair any day, anytime. And if I were not able to lock my hair, I would keep my loose natural, even though it required time and care. But I'm not a wig person, so I always have to keep my loose natural out, which meant I had to maintain it more. So this was the best option for me because this required low maintenance, and I did not have to worry about braiding my hair, wearing a wig, or covering it up. I can always leave it out. So it's just a win-win-win. The products that I use for my locks, it's nothing, just water. I don't even like using edge control because whenever I go for my retie, I make sure that they grab every single strand of hair on my forehead and pull it in. I don't use any products, so I don't spend money on products. So like I said earlier, once I pay for my $250 for my retie, that's about it. That's the only expense of my hair care, except for maybe shampooing. But that I buy like once every 6 months, depending on, because I don't wash my hair often. I only wash my hair twice every 6 weeks before I get a retie, and then 3 weeks after I get a retie. So I only wash my hair twice, and I use a shampoo. I do not use a conditioner. All locks are not the same. What you might see, like you see how my locks are looking right now, just because you get your hair locked based on what you see mine looking like does not mean that yours will turn out this way. Think about it, our hair texture is different, and that's one thing that's very unique when it comes to getting your hair locks. Unlike getting braids, which can be made to look similar or whatever, getting your hair locked or your hair going through the locking process is very unique to you. It's unique to only you. Your hair texture, your hair type, your hair pattern, and obviously how you care for it will direct how your locks turn out. So you might see some influencers or some hair care enthusiasts, as I would say, who have their locks looking a certain way. It might be beautiful, but when you do get your hair locked, yours might not turn out the same way. Getting locked or locks are the one hairstyle that I feel like you can't necessarily duplicate. You can't get the same thing on somebody's head. It's not like a wig where you can get the same, like you can't make multiple of it unless it's like done by a hair care company or whatever. But how my locks will turn out on my head, it's definitely not going to be the same for you. So as you're deciding to do it, make sure you're more realistic about the outcome of your locks. I knew earlier on, as I went through this journey, before I even started, that my locks might not turn out to look like the people that I admire, how their locks look like. It was enticing, but I knew earlier on that I had to be realistic, that my hair texture was different and my locks will not turn out how their locks have turned out. So once you get past that point, you're more realistic, or you have a more realistic perspective of what the outcome of your locks will be as they mature. The last thing that I do want to talk about after being locked for a year is that locks are not for everybody, y'all. Locks are not for everybody. In as much as it's low maintenance, it requires little to no work. Getting it installed is a pain in the butt. It took me, I was so stressed, I was so tired. My scalp itched like crazy, okay? It was itching for a good 1 week. I had to wash my hair, and that was what led to a lot of the damages that I had as well. But it was either I wash it and deal with the consequences later, or cut off all my hair. Those were the only two options I had. And it was bad, but I could have given up at that moment, but I decided to press on and push on because I was looking beyond the issue or the difficulty that I was facing. I was looking at the bigger picture, what the potential outcome would be for me. And now here I am, loving it with no issues with my scalp itching like crazy. So it's not for everybody. Your hair texture, how you care for your hair, the time you have for your hair. People will get locked, and the next thing you know, it is filled with lint from like pieces of fabric and stuff like that. I don't have that issue. So everybody is different, and how you care for your hair is also very important. It would determine how your journey would end up being. One thing that I do want to do, which I'm going to end this video on, is that because of the duration or the time that it takes for me to get a retie, I am highly considering combining my locks. Right now, like I said, when I started off, I had almost 600. I'll try and get the exact number. It should be in one of my videos or whatever, but it's not important right now. But the point is that I'm trying to reduce that by half. So if I had almost 600, I want to be able to combine as many as possible so I can drop it to like 300 so that I don't have to spend so much time whenever I go for my retie, because that's the only issue that I have. Even though it's only every 6 weeks, I wish I can reduce that time and then just get it done as quickly as possible within the day, because every time I have to get a retie, it's like I need a full day off, but I want to be able to do other stuff within the day when I get my retie. I love it so much. The hair is just looking so good, and it's just pretty, and I get compliments like all the time on it. But yeah, here we are. Thank you all so much for watching today's video. I promise to keep the videos coming. I'm still trying to re-strategize on my channel. So if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye-bye.